These are not specific to HANA database as such. We don't call this as database administration, but as I already told you yesterday, these topics intentionally included because they're when you're showing some basis background, they're expecting that from you. And they're small things, and people are getting confused. That's why we included those topics here. So when we speak about that scenario called HANA as a data mart, they want to use HANA as a data mart, HANA as a warehousing, data warehousing. The requirement there is from different sources. They need to replicate the data into HANA. So part of that, they're given a lot of replication technologies. One of them is SLT. So SLT activities, actually, if you see, most of them are admin activities, which can be done by or which should be done by a basis consultant. Almost everything, any basis guy can do that very easy. So there is nothing much what developers will do or modelers will do. It's mainly admin activities. Okay, first of all, try to understand if a customer has decided to use SLT for replicating the data into HANA. First of all, what are the options he's having to set up SLT in the company? So this landscape I've explained you at the beginning itself. If you look at this customer landscape, so here you can observe that from SAP ERP, the DCC system, which is running with SQL database. They're replicating the data into HANA database using SLT. So exactly the same situation now assume when in a new implementation wherever you're working, that's the same situation you have, where you need to replicate the data from that ERP to HANA database. Maybe in real time they want to do it. So that flexibility we have with SLT. So when you want to do that, what you do is the first and foremost thing is get this document. If you go to help.sap.com, in help.sap.com you have this document available, the installation guide trigger based applications SLT. So download the document. In this document, all the information required for you is available. All the information required for you is available. So when a customer has decided to set up SLT, basically there are two options available there. Two options. Option one is they can set up SLT separately as a separate server. Option two is they can set up SLT in the source system, provided your source is SAP source system. Such cases they have that flexibility. So both are having some advantages and disadvantages. Look at this. So this is option A, which is a preferable option, and it's highly recommended. SAP highly recommends you to use this option A. So what you can see here is on the left side you have SAP source system like ERP, CRM, anything like that. On the right side, HANA database we have, and in the middle we have SLT. A separate server is set up there. Whereas if you go with the option B, look at this. This is option B, where you don't find SLT separately because your SLT is installed in the source system itself. So provided there is a compatibility, there is a specific requirement there. What is that requirement and compatibility? I'll tell you. Either of these two is okay, but first one we prefer, highly recommended. There's a reason behind that. Actually, if you go with option A, a lot of advantages you have. One of the advantage you have there is, as you're setting up SLT separately, obviously the data loading performance will be very, very high. It's really high. Just give me a minute. Just a minute. I'll be back. So option A, performances, data loading performances will be really high, and moreover, it doesn't impact the performance of your source system transactions. It doesn't affect your source system transactions much, and SLT you can maintain separately. So all those benefits you have, but only the problem we have there is cost, additional cost. So that's the only problem. Other than that, it's a pretty good option. But second one, as you are configuring SLT in the source system itself, then obviously the cost will be very, very low. In fact, there's no additional cost. But whereas the problem you'll be facing here is there will be a data loading performances will be definitely affected. Okay, just look at this diagram. Hold on. So those are the advantages, disadvantages. See, in this case, another problem we'll be facing is another big problem we'll be facing is if you are to do anything related to SLT, you need to look for the maintenance window of your source system. So within that maintenance window only, you need to take care of maintenance of even SLT also. So anyhow, either of these two options still works. But recommended, I told you, go with the first one. Okay, in both the cases, what you have to do, what is the simple definition of SLT? I'll give you. Technically speaking, functionality wise, SLT is a replication technology. That's fine. Technically speaking, what is SLT? So SLT is nothing but SAP NetWeaver applications or ABAP 7.02 and above versions. 7.02 and above. Minimum required is 7.02 with an add-on called DMIS add-on. See how simple is that? So that's the reason why when you want to go with option B, I told you it must be compatible. So let us see option A, what we have to do. These are the simple steps. First, install. Any basis guy knows this, how to install ASAP app. That's the first step. And second thing, install the DMIS add-on, whatever the compatible one. And if needed, that add-on SP levels also you can check, and you can upgrade that SP levels. And then install on a client in SLT, because connectivity happens using client only. Fourth thing is most important thing, you need to install DMIS add-on in the source system also. Two things observe there. You're installing DMIS add-on in SLT as well as in the source system, and both these versions need not be same. The add-on what I'm using in SLT need not be same as the add-on what I'm using in source system, because your source system can be very low version, can be as low as 4.6c, but your SLT is NetWeaver ASAP app 7.02 minimum. So that's why definitely there will be a difference. Okay, that's in the case of option. Yeah. Let us see option B. Option B, first you check for the compatibility, whether your source is compatible or not. Means the source, whether application server version is 7.02 or not, you verify it. So then directly install DMIS add-on. That's the first step. And second step is install HANA client. That's it. You don't need this one, anything like in SLT, instead of saying SLT, in source. So that's the simple steps what you need to perform. That's the difference you need to make between option A and option B. Separate server or installing SLT in the source system. Okay, once that is done, your post-installation activities. Post-installation activities you need to perform in SLT or like this. Very simple activities. They are given in this document actually, as it is. Here in this document, just go down a little bit. It will show you clearly post-installation activities. So one of the post-installation activities, you need to activate some of the services, because you are going to use a WebDyn Pro application, which is basically a transaction here, LTR. And the transaction you want to run in the browser, you need to activate some of the WebDyn Pro and relevant services. So you know how to activate the services. You can do it in SICF transaction. So here I have this ECC system. See what I did is in this ECC itself, I actually install the add-on, DMIS add-on. So it's option B, you can say, in our case. Just an example. Just look at these components, you can find add-on. So here it is, a compatible add-on I apply. Okay, so SP levels also you can upgrade if you want. Then part of the post installation activities, as I told you, just go to SICF, and what are the list of services they are given, just enable those services. This is not one, there are multiple services which you need to enable all of them. That's a service, right click on that and activate. I did activation already. Like that, all the services you activate, and then go to SU01, create a user, and that user should have these couple of roles in SLT system, because he's going to act as an administrator, and that user should have two roles actually. One is SAP IUC REPL admin, another one is SAP IUC REPL display. So with those two roles, you create a user, and you also create a user in the source system by granting this SAP IUC REPL remote. This is for communication purpose. Between SLT and the source system, you need to establish the communication. So for that you need. Okay, after all these things are done, and then you need to do the configuration part. Configuration means what? You need to configure replication to the HANA database from that source system. Only SLT server is set up. But then you need to do the configuration part also. And another thing, remember this SLT replication is integrated with HANA Studio. It's integrated with HANA Studio. That's why, see, when you're in the modeler perspective, if you open this quick view, there is something called data provisioning. Click on data provisioning. So when you select your HANA database, see what's the message it's giving. It's clearly stating that data provisioning is not configured. Contact the system administrator. So unless otherwise that configuration is done, they won't be able to replicate the tables here. So for doing that, first of all, in your SLT system, you need to create a connection to the source, that RFC connection. Go to SM59. This should be done in SLT. Even you configured SLT in the source system, still you have to do it. Select ABAP connections, click on create. Provide the server details. Log on details. Now we are going to use that RFC in the configuration part. Now to do that configuration, replication configuration, two transactions you have. Either you can use LTR or LTRC. Two options, LTR or LTRC. LTRC is introduced in SLT 2.0. 2.0, 1.0 is old version. Depending on the add-on you are applying, that version will be. LTRC is SAP GUI transaction. Okay, first of all, let me check whether this user is assigned with the required roles or not. So don't experiment anything with this. This is not for practicing. Only one server we have. So here you have an option to create new configurations. Yeah, but better than this, you have another tool provided to you called LTR. That is called Configuration and Monitoring Dashboard for HANA. So let us use this one. Here I'm logging in. I mean, the browser issues are there, other browsers. I'm using this one. So there are a lot of configurations, earlier created configurations. Those configurations, what SAP is offering to you. Okay, I'll just delete this one unnecessary. Okay, let us do a new configuration. Click on new. So here, a simple wizard is displayed where you need to give these details one by one. So you can give any configuration name, it's up to you. One thing remember, whatever the configuration name we are giving with the same name, a schema is created in HANA database. User created, schema is also created. So click on next. So SLT source systems possibility only two, either SAP or non-SAP is only databases or DB connection option. If it is SAP, use RFC. So select that RFC you created in the previous steps. I think we are given ADM 165. Okay, anything is fine. Yeah, it's almost same things. I'm just selecting one of the RFC created there, and then check this checkbox allow multiple usage, which is highly recommended. What actually that does is it will allow multiple configurations for the same source system. So that there will be multiple schemas and you can replicate to different schemas. And if you want to restrict the replication for a selected client in your RFC, then use that read from single client. Otherwise, leave it. Click on next, and target is HANA database is already selected. And you provide only the database server details, HANA database server details. User, password, host name, instance number, these details you get. And here finally you need to specify the transfer settings. Depending on the resources availability, we need to decide on this. Resource or performance optimized. This table space is not required now. And number of data transfer jobs, you have to specify this, which is mandatory. This purely depends on how many background work process we configure. Remember, in SLT, it's highly recommended to configure more number of background work processes. If we have more background work process, a better performance. So depending on that, you give this number. Based on that, automatically initial load jobs calculation job system will take it. And then you decide on the replication options, either real time or schedule by interval or by time, you can decide on it. But SLT is very popular for real time replications. You can also activate replication logging so that whenever the replication takes place, you'll have logs generated by the system, which can be useful for troubleshooting. Any troubleshooting is needed. Click on create configuration. Configuration created, just close that. That configuration will be shown here. So now what actually system has done is it's connected to established a connection to HANA database. Then there is a user created, there is a schema created, and it also scheduled replication for 3 tables. And that if you want to check, go to this data provisioning, select your HANA database for which we did the configuration, and you'll go to the data provisioning editor. So here you can see that already the scheduled replication for 3 tables automatically, and you can also see that one schema created here, ADM ECC, and there is also user created like this. So all the tables we are replicating will be replicated to this schema. As I told you, we can do multiple configurations so that multiple schemas you have. So then you can replicate finance tables into one schema, sales tables into another schema like that. The reason why these 3 tables are scheduled for replication and you have to wait until these 3 tables are replicated successfully. Reason is, whenever the developer or modeler want to load or replicate tables data, when they click on this button, load button, they should get list of tables here on the left side. But here you don't have any tables. Unless there is a table, they cannot select the table for replication. So that's why to get that list, we need these tables. Actually, DD02L is having all the table names. DD02T is having table descriptions in multiple languages. And 8L is having table relations between the tables. So actually with this our job is done. Then the modelers or developers will proceed with the replication of their tables here by clicking on these buttons. See, now it started, but this will take time. It will take around 10 to 15 minutes. Once your configuration is done, then only those people they can continue with their load or replicate option. Another thing also you remember, there is a difference between load and replicate. Load performs only initial update. Means suppose if I am loading the data for a table, if the table is having 10,000 records, all those 10,000 records will be loaded and it will stop with that. But if you go with replicate, it will perform initial update as well as delta update. Means what? As of now, you have 10,000 records will be loaded, but it won't stop with that. Tomorrow, if you have a new record inserted, existing record updated, those changes also will be replicated into HANA database. So that's the difference between load and replicate. And replicate already we have selected real time, so real time replication takes place. So as replication is a continuous process, you have stopping, suspend options will be there. If you suspend, resume option is there. If you stop permanently, you're stopping like that. So this will easily takes around 10 minutes. This DD02L load is over already. Let's happen real quick. This DD02L is having around 1 lakh, not 1 lakh, 4 lakh 80,000 records. But that's a big one. DD02T is a big one. There are more than 7 million records. That will take time. So this is already done. 484,000. So let that go on. After this is completed, Then I'll show you one example on how loading will be done, how replication will be done, how effective real-time replication is. The significance of real-time replications. See, now it's switched to replication. I don't need that replication for the table, unnecessary. Stopping it. But you can see that for other two tables, replication is started. 2T is the one which will take a lot of time. So you just started 660,000. So more than 7 million in that. That will take time.